Weddings change the way people think about money. Often there is a lot of social pressure. Nobody wants to disappoint their parents or look cheap in front of their friends. So the amount they spend keeps growing. Eventually they are paying for things they may not even care about. I'm gonna show you how couples end up overspending on weddings. I'm gonna show you what they regret later. I'm also gonna show you what I think about spending a lot on weddings, which might surprise you. Let's get into it.
I spent $100,000 on my wedding, and let's do a full wedding cost breakdown. Starting off strong, we have $7,000 for my dress. This is the dress in question. It was a custom, it's so big, look at it. It's a custom Karen Willis Holmes dress, and I don't regret a single cent that I spent on it. I've been dreaming of that for my whole life.
Kind of peculiar that when people talk about their weddings and they're explaining it, they use this phrase, I don't regret X. It's like kind of telling, isn't it? Like you're expected to express regret over things. You think I regret spending money on this shirt from Tokyo? And would you even hear me saying, I bought this shirt, I don't regret it? It's not even in my vernacular. Because if I regretted it, I wouldn't have got it. Or if I did, I wouldn't be wearing it. Like, what? Hey, everybody, especially women who this is predominant around, because you rarely hear a man saying this. You don't have to caveat your purchases if you can afford it and you love it by saying, I don't regret it. I actually would much rather hear you tell me why you love it. The dress is beautiful. That's the kind of stuff I want to hear when it comes to you spending money.
Bridesmaids dresses were from Birdie Gray. They cost $450. My venue, Ravensthorpe Estate, was $20,000. Flowers were $7,500.
I just want to pause and look at these expenses here. What I want to point out is that it is almost an axiom that if you are in the Western world and you look at these prices, which are quite clearly laid out, your first reaction is, ugh. Have you ever thought about where that comes from? That feeling that you should just instinctively be disgusted when somebody talks about how much their wedding costs? Think about it. Because it didn't just independently come up to tens of millions of Americans, especially men. It came up because we have been engineered, especially in the US, to look down on certain purchases. And they often are women's purchases. Things like weddings, things that are historically seen as women being the ones making them. Handbags, self-care, Botox or massage or getting your hair done, all these things that you'll often hear men describe as frivolous, but oddly enough, they will not describe their F-250 purchase as frivolous. Kind of weird, huh? Worth thinking about. The thing that jumps out to me here is the venue, $20K. I don't know how many people, but for a wedding, that's quite normal. Whenever people talk about actual prices of a wedding, this very peculiar phenomenon happens, almost as if summoned by a bat signal. 3,000 people will come out of the woodwork and they will leave comments saying, ugh, outrageous. For our wedding, we served hot tamales and it cost $270 for 300 people. And we're still married 30 years later. And I'm like, that's great. I actually don't mind. If a wedding was not important to you or you did not have the money for it, or you just preferred to take your money and spend it elsewhere, amazing. But it is quite peculiar that always, whenever you write about wedding prices, you will have tons of commenters doing the exact same thing. I don't mind. $20K, if you can afford it, great.
Is that an exorbitant amount? Yes. Was I happy to pay it? Yes. Did the flowers look beautiful? Yes. Photography, $4,500. Would have paid more for Hank Paul photography. He was absolutely insane. Videography, Blake Kobe Weddings. He was a friend of mine. Honestly, slayed. $1,800 for makeup. I'm going to answer a question here as well that I know I'm going to get asked, which is, did you go over your budget and what was your original budget? The original budget was $50,000. Okay. And we went over a considerable amount.
Hold on. She says we went over our budget. So I have found this to be totally true. Whatever people initially say they're going to spend on their wedding, I think the number that I found, I wrote it in my book, chapter 9, I think. It's like 2.5 times higher than whatever they said. So if it's like 30K is the first number they pick, it's going to be over 100K. Like that's very consistent. They get mad when I tell them that, okay? And I'm like, you can get mad or not, but if you want to properly manage a wedding, a couple of things need to happen. Number one, where'd you get that 30K from? Or 20K or 10K? Most people just pick the number out randomly without even knowing how much it costs to serve dessert. And then so you may have unrealistic expectations. And then second, you may want to either increase the amount you spend, or you may want to compromise on certain things that you thought you were going to have for that lower amount. There are lots of different ways to do it, but in my opinion, getting mad is not really going to solve it. It's like, hey, I may have been out of touch with market prices. How would you know anyway? And then let's adjust to it effectively.
However, we also had family contribute a significant amount to help us pay for our wedding. However, again, we paid for I believe it was 70% of the entire wedding.
You had family contribute to the wedding. That's cool. One of the couples that I worked with on Netflix, they were getting married. And one of the things that I coached them on was asking their family openly, hey, we would love it if you would be able to help. If you are, how much would be comfortable for you? And in an Asian family, this was somewhat taboo because there's a lot of unspoken communication in Eastern cultures. But in order for them to actually plan their venue and plan the wedding effectively, it had to shine a light and actually just talk about it openly. We did the same thing with our parents. With my parents, I had been saving for many, many years, but I also knew that they wanted to participate. And so I said, we would love it if you could. If you feel comfortable with that, let me know what amount would be comfortable for you. And I wanted to shine a light on that. And I wanted to give them the opportunity. Not that I was begging, not that I expected it, but I know that if you're a parent, especially my parents, they want to participate. And they may be able to participate financially. They came to our tastings to help advise on the Indian food. There's so many ways they can participate, but you got to ask. And if they say no, that's okay. All right, I want to see what's next. Planning a wedding on a 10K budget. Is this even possible? Yeah, already the answer is yes. It just may look different than you envision, but it's absolutely possible. There are plenty of people who have a wedding for far less than that even today. Let's take a look. Just like to point out that her iPad in her hand costs $1,000.
Here's the kicker. I don't want it to look like it was $10,000. I want it to have the feel and vibe of a $50,000 wedding. For reference, here are the vibes. This is sort of everything I've saved on Pinterest so far.
Already, I love this video. I want to have a $10,000 wedding, but I want it to look like it's 50K. I think a lot of people would dismiss something like that. Oh, so stupid, so naive. I love it. Have a vision like that. Then you can find out ways of effectively, economically making your wedding look more expensive. There are plenty of ways to do it. But I think it's really courageous to be right up front and say, look, 10,000 bucks, but I want it to look like it's a lot more expensive. Awesome, let's figure out how.
I realize those are two very different price points, but I feel like I can emulate the vibe without spending all my money on one night. And see how close we can stay within our $10,000 budget, considering I've already been quoted $9,000 for some photographers. My current guest list is right around 50 people, and I'm very lucky to start with my venue costing $0 because we're gonna do it at my grandparents' house, which is where I always pictured it being. They have a big, beautiful yard. It's right on the water. I'm very lucky. Not only did that start our budgeting off very strong, I feel like it perfectly adds to that homey us feel that I want this to have. I like to consider myself a very crafty person, so there's gonna be lots of thrifting, DIYs, but I still want everything to feel and look expensive. I'm talking champagne taste on a McDonald's budget. So far, I've saved a bunch of intentional but beautiful floral arrangements, lots of details involving my dogs because I have 2 standard poodles who will be involved. But I'm so excited to bring you guys along for the planning, the thrifting, the DIYs, to hopefully show you that you don't have to spend $100,000 to have your dream wedding too. Stay tuned.
I'm into this big time. To me, this actually is such a cool way of applying your creativity and your craft to creating this magical experience. Notice what I always say, a rich life does not always have to be expensive. A rich life should first and foremost be meaningful. So I have had some of the most rich life experiences at places that were quite affordable, but I was with loved ones, or we ordered something really special that was awesome for us. And I just love the energy here where she's like, look, I'm crafty and I saved a bunch of money on the venue and I'm going to make this feel like something that is a lot more expensive. Double thumbs up. I can't wait to see the end result. I have a feeling it's going to be awesome. One rich life experience that I will never forget is when we invited my parents to Italy with us, and we wanted to have a really beautiful time with them. So yeah, we splurged on the hotel, but that was not for them. They didn't care about that. I loved the hotel. What they cared about was being able to have these experiences in Rome, which they had never had before. So for example, my mother-in-law, she'd never been to the Vatican before. So we got a private tour guide who arranged for us to get in early and could explain what we were seeing at a level that was understandable for the entire group. I love that. Then you know what else we did? We did a cooking class. So a chef came and took us into the farmer's market and we picked vegetables and he explained how he chooses them and how Italians eat. We went back, we cooked it, and it was like, you know, the fun part of cooking. We did a little bit of the pasta and then like they do the hard work, but all of our hands are we have flour on it and we're laughing because we don't know how to do this. In the end, we're sitting down eating this meal. And I have to tell you, that was one of the best meals we have eaten. Not because it was expensive, because we created it together. We created a journey together. And that is what a rich life is. With a wedding, this is a perfect example. You are not just ordering flowers for your table. You are actually creating a journey, a vision together. And if you think of it like that, then the cost becomes not the primary thing, but the vision and the collaboration, the connection, that becomes the most important thing. That is how I would think about it. Let's look at this next thing.
How to not pay for your wedding. Hey, that was such a great ceremony. Here's your bill, $70,000. Oh, we're not paying that. We're going to deduct our wedding expenses on our taxes. What? You can actually deduct things like your wedding venue if it's at a nonprofit organization like a museum or a national park. You can also donate your flowers and leftover food to a shelter. And if you have a destination wedding, your travel expenses may be deductible if it's
Okay, what the hell? This is like a little outlandish and honestly a little frustrating. This is like the people who buy an expensive bag and then they go, yeah, but it's an investment. You didn't buy a Birkin bag to be an investment. You bought it because it looks awesome. Okay, just be honest about it. Please, can we stop with the bullshit? You're not donating flowers for a tax write-off. That's insane. And it also reminds me of the people who go like, oh yeah, I'm actually gonna make all the costs back with the gifts that guests give me. Look, I already modeled it out in my spreadsheet. I'm like, you're the cheapest I ever met in my life. I don't like when people lie to themselves and also to other people about the actual meaning. If you wanna spend $5,000 on flowers because you love them, do it. Just be honest about it. Don't deceive yourself into thinking it's actually a tax write-off. The amount of people who think that tax write-offs are applicable for everything is crazy. People go, Ramit, you're on TV all the time. You can write off your clothes. No, I can't. I can't write off my clothes. I pay for these out of pocket. Hey, Ramit, personal training, you can write that off. No, I can't. I pay for that too. So all these ideas of people who go online and tell you can write this off and you can write that off. And if you get this Mercedes SUV, you can write that off too. You have to realize some of them are outright lying to you. Some of them don't know any better. You're hosting a wedding because you want to and you love it. There's nothing wrong with that. Do not deceive yourself and others into thinking it's a tax write-off. Like, what if I were to ask you today, what are the 3 key steps you can take so that you will have $100,000 invested? Would you know the answer? A lot of people would just say the same thing they've been doing. We should probably cut back on coffee. Okay, how's that gonna turn into $100,000? If you are ready to stop focusing on these tiny little things that don't really work in the grand scheme anyway, then the approach is to focus on getting to $100,000 invested. Because once you have $100,000 in your portfolio, you can see compound interest working and you can realize how long it's going to take you to turn to 200K, 500K, 1 million, 1.5 million. The numbers start to become inevitable, not a dream. That is why we created Road to 100K. Inside of Road to 100K, you're gonna understand exactly where you stand today. You will know the month and year that you will have $100,000 invested and a step-by-step plan of how to get there. You're also gonna get access to live coaching, including from me, and a community of people who are working on the same goal so you can share all of the things that are working and avoid the mistakes that are not. And if you are ready to elevate beyond playing small and worrying about logging into your apps every day, and you are ready to start achieving big goals like $100,000 in your portfolio, you should join 100K. You can scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description below.
If you're wondering if it's worth it, the whole big wedding, planning a wedding, all the time, energy, and money that you put into one weekend of your lives, I'm going to confirm to you that it is 1,000% worth it. 1,000% worth it. It was the best weekend of our lives, the best weekend of our lives. It was worth every dollar. It was worth every hour. It was every single thing that we ever wanted and more. And it was right after the wedding. After all 3 days we had a destination wedding. After all 3 days of events were over, we're going to bed and we looked at each other and we're like, that was the best money we've ever spent. The best money we've ever spent. Hands down. Because at the end of the day, the money will come back. Like, you will go back to work. You will work and you will make more money. And the money will come back. But the time and the memories will not come back. That is something that you get to keep for forever. And we just had the best weekend of our lives with one another, our family, our friends, and some of our friends even said it was the best weekend of their lives. So if you are hitting a crossroad in wedding planning and you're driving yourself crazy or you're getting frustrated, just remember that I promise you it will be worth every single time.
I have mixed reactions about this video because I agree that having a wedding, especially if it is important to you, can easily be one of the best days or weekends of your life. It certainly was for us. And if not, that's okay too. In a rich life, you have to ask yourself, how many opportunities do you get to have a truly special event? The part that I'm a little iffy on is this idea that, hey, let me just remind you, like, this is going to be so awesome, and so therefore you should like spend the money. No, we've got to be disciplined about the money as well. Like, you can spend money, but you need to make sure that it's hitting your numbers, that you have a plan, you've run the numbers carefully and added a 15% buffer. If you do all those things, you're going to be set. It is the people who just go, oh, this is going to be once in a lifetime, let's just spend. They're the ones who end up with regret. It can be an amazing time. Decide for yourself, but make sure you run the numbers. I think couples should spend way more time talking about the life they want after the wedding, because it's easy to get sucked into this wedding vortex where it's the only thing you are thinking about for an entire year. Suddenly you look up, you spent $28,000 more than you thought, almost by accident. So this is why I like asking this question. If we spend more on the wedding, where are we spending less somewhere else? And you've got to be able to answer it, because maybe the answer is we care about this wedding more than taking a 14-day honeymoon. So we're going to make it 7 or 4 or not take one at all. That's up to you. The important thing here is deciding intentionally what your rich life together looks like. If you want to get better at making those decisions with money, go watch this video, How to Have Better Finances Than 95% of People in 3 months, right here.